Hey, good afternoon, everybody. It's Mike Shea, Transworld Business Advisors. I'm here with Lisa Khan. Lisa is the owner of Lisa Khan Immigration, and I've known Lisa for 15, 16 years, something like that, and done a couple hundred immigration cases with her. So, good afternoon, Lisa. I see you're
Hi,
not in the office.
I am in the office.
Oh, we've
Yeah,
cleaned, did we remodel the office?
I remodeled last year.
I need
Yes.
to visit. I need to visit. We changed. We
Yeah,
went with a
we're
bright.
light and bright and white.
Yeah, it looks like your house.
In
It looks like
here.
a house. I'm like, oh, that's nice.
Yeah, no,
Right.
it's very cozy. I
Okay.
have been I'm apparently still considered essential, which was good for my ego. So
Yeah.
I'm coming to the office every
Yeah. That
day.
was the
And I
whole. That
actually
was the,
frankly can't work at home with kids, a dog, and a mother
yeah.
and a husband.
I got the same problem. I did a, Skype call with my mother's cardiologist today, and they live next door, but it's still they might as well be in the house. So,
Okay, yeah,
um, all right. So, topic du jour. Give us a little bit of history of what I call Lisa Visa, and
sure.
how long you've been in practice, how many cases you've done, specialization, yada yada yada.
Okay.
We'll start talking about the elephant in the room, COVID.
Okay, sounds good. So I've been practicing exclusively in the area of immigration since 1997, which is kind of shocking to me when I start adding up those years, about 23 years of doing this. But I love it. It's been a challenge along the way, but we have cleared hurdles, including 9/11 and many other things. So this is just another bump in the road. We'll get through it. I practice primarily in the area of business immigration and then family immigration. So I do a lot of non-immigrant related employment visas, family visas, as well as immigrant visas, green cards, permanent residence, and citizenship. The areas that I don't really practice in are asylum, deportation, kind of the immigration court area. Most immigration attorneys tend to fall into one of two camps, and it's the benefits side of immigration, which is what I do, or more of the removal defense side of immigration. I have a bit of a niche, I guess I would say, in the E2 treaty investor visa area. I just tend to do a lot of those types of visas, and as you know, we work together on quite a few of those. So there's always been an interest, I think, in Central Florida and the greater Orlando area for investors and for people wanting to pursue the American dream and come to the U.S. and to live and to work here. And the E2 for many can be a good vehicle for that. So I do tend to do quite a lot of those types of cases, but really anything from A to Z within employment and family immigration.
Okay.
I couldn't really tell you how many cases I've done in 23 years, but it's a lot.
Right.
And I always have a pretty brisk workload, which is a blessing.
Yeah. So, if people want to know about the E2 visa, I wanted to really do visas in light of the current crisis. And as you said, we've been through this before. We went through this with 9/11.
Yeah.
We went through this when Trump got elected. Everyone lost their mind.
Right.
We've gone through, I mean, you and I had a case last year with the whole Mexican caravan, and we had the guys stuck in Ecuador or
Yes,
Honduras.
bombing at an embassy, doorstep, all kinds of things.
Lit on fire. We've been through this before.
Right.
So I wanted to talk about COVID.
Okay.
The Donald's edict or
Sure.
verbiage from the
Executive order.
Yeah,
Okay.
and then what that really means, and then what we should be doing, or what our applicants should be doing.
Okay. So, COVID has been a game changer for everyone in so many different ways, and certainly with immigration as well. So with regard to, what are some of the changes or the fallout or impact from COVID, the local immigration offices where they conduct citizenship interviews and green card interviews, those are closed to the public at the moment and kind of until further notice. So people that had interviews for naturalization or for green cards, those interviews were sort of descheduled, put on hold. Part of the process for many types of filings also involves taking biometrics at an immigration service center. Those biometrics appointments also have been kind of canceled until further notice. But the local immigration offices are still operative. They're still working. It's just that they're working without any public interaction or interface. Most of the filings that we do are done with a service center initially, and then sometimes they get transferred to the local office for an interview. But many of the filings are submitted to a service center where the cases are adjudicated. So for example, H-1Bs and L-1s, if someone is filing to change their status to an E2, those are all done at the service centers. The initial green card cases all filed there. Those service centers have never really had any interaction with the public. And I think they've always had a bit of a capacity to work at home as well. So those service centers are still up and running and still operating. And I'm sure their work schedules have changed, and probably many are working from home. But it's kind of business as usual there. We still have to meet filing deadlines. They're still issuing on occasion requests for evidence with deadlines to meet. And if somebody's here and they're here as a visitor and their stay is expiring, and they want to extend their stay, we can file the visitor extensions at the service centers, and those are still going along. So it's a bit of business as usual with the filings in the US. And I think really the major change has been the biometrics and the interviews. What's changed outside the US is through the consulates or the embassies outside of the US, where the visas are actually issued. So someone may be applying for an E2 visa directly at an embassy or consulate, but now there's no interviews as of March. I think it was March 18th is when the State Department kind of said, hey, we're canceling all non-immigrant visa interviews. Non-immigrant visas would be E2 visas, visitor visas, student visas, work-related visas, and immigrant visa processing as well. Immigrant visa really is another phrase or term for kind of a green card visa. So since March 18th, really the embassies, even though they are also have staff that presumably are all working from home and maybe processing cases, the upshot is nobody's getting a visa, because to get the visa, you've got to go in person for an appointment or interview, and then the visa is issued. So there's no visa issuance at the moment. But I did contact both the Toronto Embassy and the London Embassy, where I do a fair number of E2 filings, and they confirmed that they're still accepting filings, and we have been still filing E2 cases, investor visa cases. They're still accepting them. They're still reviewing them. For renewals and for first-time filings. It's just that they can only go so far, because at the end of the day, the way to get the visa is to have that appointment or interview, and then the visa issued and the passport, and that's what's not happening now. So we can still file those cases, and for clients that were kind of in the process, maybe buying a business, investing, still want to do that, I'm saying let's just keep moving forward as best we can. Let's get those filed, because they are being accepted, they're being reviewed, and then those individuals are in the queue, so that when things do kind of open up again and we have the visa interviews, they'll be first in line.
They're not going to. So we're going to continue to put applications in, and I mean, I know you don't know this, but is the feeling that, like, okay, they're doing everything up to the last final component that they can, and now they're just building this huge stack of, okay, we got to meet these people, do the interview. So we're going to have this backlog of people standing by. Is there any chance they're going to throw more headcount at that pile to kind of get?
That's a good question. They might. I think the government is, at various times allocates resources differently. So if there's a big pile now of cases that are interview ready, they might shift resources over to, let's get these interviews through and catch up on the backlog, and let's put a little hold on, but when we get to this point, maybe reviewing new cases, let's make that our second priority till we get some of these through. So maybe the upshot of that could be, if it takes 30 to 45 days, typically say in London, for an officer to review the case, and then we can schedule an appointment, maybe that lead time will extend because they're trying to clear a backlog. Who knows, but it could happen. Hard to say. There's also been some questions about, do you think they might just waive an interview given the current situation and issue the visas without interview? I doubt it. I really don't think that they're going to do that. Here in the US, when we have some green card cases that are filed and typically are interviewed at the local offices, they have in the past on occasion waived some of those interviews, and we're seeing that happen a little bit, usually where there's a very low incidence of fraud, where it might be the parent of a US citizen, all the paperwork is in order and the interview is a little more perfunctory. So we have in some cases seen that happening, where it may be the only thing outstanding in those cases is, say, bringing a medical exam to the interview. We're getting requests from the local offices, go ahead and submit the medical, with the idea being that if we can approve this and feel that we don't really need an interview, it's a low fraud type of a filing, that we're going to approve those. But
So
I'd be doubtful of that happening at the embassies.
yeah, I would think London in particular, no.
Yeah.
On
I
the
think it would be pretty standard across the board.
Yeah. So the president gets up on Monday, makes the remarks regarding integration. And I was like right on the phone with you or emailing you, go, okay, what the hell does this mean? And you're like, I got to figure it out. So any
Right,
more news?
absolutely.
What's the situation on that? And what do we know and what do we don't know?
Yes. So yeah, late Monday night, the president sent out a tweet that said, and I'll read it for those that don't know, in light of the attack from the invisible enemy, being COVID-19, as well as the need to protect the jobs of our great American citizens, I will be signing an executive order to temporarily suspend immigration into the United States. So that was quite alarming. Temporarily suspending immigration to the United States. What does that mean? Who's it going to apply to? Is this going to halt the entire system? So everybody, including me, kind of went into a little bit of a panic trying to figure out, well, what in the world is going to be the upshot of all of this? And so it's been an interesting week, a little exhausting, frankly, and maybe the same for you, because there's been so many queries and emails and calls and nervous clients. The good thing, I think, is that at the end of the day, the executive order that was issued really is not anywhere near as alarming as what it maybe have sounded like. So the executive order essentially said we're ceasing for the next 60 days immigrant visa issuance outside the U.S. at the consulates overseas. It doesn't impact current green card cases or any cases really pending in the U.S. right now, non-immigrant visas, etc. It applies to immigrant visas being issued at the U.S. consulates or embassies out of the U.S. The reality is, because the embassies are, for the most part, closed and not really conducting interviews and issuing visas, it's not a heck of a lot different than what we're really facing now because of the COVID situation. So, for example, I have a client in London who's married to a U.S. citizen. All the paperwork was done before the COVID situation hit, and all he was waiting for now was just the interview scheduling. And then, March 18th came, and they said no more interviews. So he's just waiting for his immigrant visa interview to come to the U.S. with his spouse. And that's a case where he's going to be waiting, till they really open it up again. So really, they just said no immigrant visas being issued outside the country, with some exceptions for some certain cases. But the upshot of it is, I think, really a little bit more of a, in my opinion, and in that of many others, a little bit of a political kind of gambit to say, look, we're getting tough on immigration. We're trying to protect American jobs, and I'm taking a tough stance here. And the average American really doesn't know that much about the ins and outs of the immigration system and visas and all of the things that you and I are dealing with. So it might sound very appealing to many that, hey, this is a good idea. We're not letting people come in for the next 60 days. We're not really letting anybody come in anyway, because of the health situation. So,
Right.
but at the end of the day, it was scary. But I said, well, this is one I can live with.
Yeah, I had like 5 calls and 5 emails, both from sellers and from people who are in the UK. And I'm like, A, you guys are on the upward curve anyway, so you're in lockdown. B, the thing was shut off on the 18th. And C, I don't want to give you a civics lesson on the United States, but the president just can't do what he wants, right?
Yeah.
And oh, by the way, it's an election year, and he's pandering to his base. And then when you read the letter of the law, this is what it really, really means. Nothing.
Yeah.
Right?
There's a couple provisions in there that say, this is a 60-day suspension, but can be reviewed or extended. So there, that may happen. So I guess there is a chance that if the embassies did open in the next 60 days or so, but this was extended, that would be, of a greater concern. There's a section in there too that says Department of Labor and Homeland Security are going to give me some recommendations for other things that we might be able to do to ensure, U.S. jobs aren't being affected. So, but who knows? It's not worth speculating on what that means.
Right.
He might accept some recommendations and maybe take some further action, but that remains to be seen.
I think the buyers and the sellers in particular need to understand that the E2 visas and the L1 visas are economic visas, and they're intended to stimulate the economy. And one thing we know about the president, he's a businessman, and whether he's aware of those 2 programs or not, someone's going to whisper in his ear and go, particularly the senators and congressmen from Florida are going to go, hey,
Yeah, and between Monday night and the executive order coming out, I think there were whispers from the business community and others that say, I don't know if you're talking about just halting immigration, but that's not going to happen. That's
Yeah,
not realistic, and it's not good for the economy.
After you was my email to Cagnetta, and I'm going, hey, get on the horn to the lobbyist and, rattle the cage so that they behave themselves. So in short, they need to be submitting their processing as normal. The sellers need to be aware that we're all in limbo.
Right.
The buyers coming from Europe are probably the best buyers because, they're actually buying, right? There's exchange rate benefits and, they want to come here. Americans are still kind of punch drunk right now. So we'll get, and oh, by the way, something we've been echoing in the office at Transworld was we've been through this before. This is not, 9/11 was very similar. The recession in 9 and 8 was very similar.
Exactly.
We've been through this before. We'll get through this again. Just everyone needs to chill out and stop jumping to conclusions.
I think so too. And I think, we're all adapting to a slightly new normal at the moment, but all we can do is just kind of keep on keeping on and keep moving forward with plans that we have for now and for the future as best we can. And we can't control everything, but I think we just got to keep moving in the right direction because it will, you're going to hear that this too shall pass, and who knows when, but it will.
Right. I agree. All right, Lisa. So if someone wants to get a hold of you, how do they get a hold of you?
Best way is to email me. My email is lisa@lisavisa.com. And my website is lisavisa.com. So you can also go onto the website and there's a link there to contact me as well.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Stay safe.
Absolutely.